I proceed, gentlemen, to call your attention to the current state of the insane persons confined within this Commonwealth, in cages, stalls, penned, chained, beaten, and lashed into obedience. My name is Dorthea and I am a crusader for the mentally insane. Ever since I could remember, I've been taking care of the people I care about, whether it be my depressed mother, my 2 brothers, or the children in my schools. At the age of 12, I moved to Boston with my grandmother, who taught me everything I knew, and when I was 14, I opened my first school. Between the ages of 19 and 34, I opened more formal schools, but sadly, I was struck down with terrible lung trouble and depression at 34, and I had to close all my schools. So I traveled to Great Britain to recover, and I met William Rathbone III, who opened my eyes to caring for the mentally ill. In 1841, I was teaching at East Cambridge Jail in Massachusetts, and I decided that I wanted to explore. However, the guards did not want me to, and I kept wondering why I wasn't allowed to leave the room I was teaching in. So naturally, I left, and I found my way into a basement. It was cold and dark, and there were no windows or any kind of ventilation. It was crowded with all of these people who were barely clothed and sitting in their own filth. That was my first encounter with insane persons. I went back up to the room I was teaching in, and I asked one of the guards why they were down there in the freezing cold with no clothes on. And he told me that it makes no difference to them. That's when I decided that I needed to do something. I started my campaign, and I traveled for 18 months around Massachusetts to almshouses and prisons, finding the same kind of conditions that these people were in. So I started lobbying to the governments and getting funds for state facilities and better conditions for these people. I consulted my friend William Channing, who told me to get help from the influential men in my community. I got in contact with the 3 horsemen of reform, who were Samuel Howe, Charles Sumner, and Horace Mann. They brought public attention to my cause and provided me more opportunity to get my word out. In fact, there were many articles written about what I was doing. So as my campaign picked up speed in the United States, I decided to travel to Europe again, and I started there, where I met with many doctors in Liverpool and even Queen Elizabeth, who made a royal parliament-led decision to make facilities for mentally challenged people. My success in Great Britain enabled me to travel the rest of Europe, where I went to countries like France, Italy, and Germany, and many more. And I met with the Pope, who personally started making a building for mentally ill. I traveled back to the United States, where I finally was able to move my brothers to Boston because my mother and grandmother had died while I was in Europe. I continued my campaign, and I addressed a bill to Congress, and it was passed all the way up until President Franklin Pierce, who vetoed it. However, there were still a lot of state facilities being built, and I traveled almost all 28 states, raising awareness and getting funds. I don't know what the words are. Then in 1861, when the Civil War broke out, I was made superintendent of Army nurses, where I personally trained over 180 nurses, including Louisa May Alcott, if any of you know who that is. And many of them found me way too strict and relatively mean. But nonetheless, I was not about to let these men die on my hands. So, after the war had ended, I won, I received medals for my duty. Then I continued my campaign after the war and continued opening schools and state facilities, and until I had more tuberculosis, and I had to take a break when I was 76. And in fact, I died in one of the first hospitals that I founded. And that's it.
So the hospital for the mentally ill. And I thought you were going. Don't you have a street pass?
Oh no, I passed the counselor.
It says here you're going to the dentist.
Oh, that was earlier today.
Weird.
Yeah. I could just leave, but I can't. What am I gonna go do? Stand in the front?
Oh, I don't have to really go.